We've got breaking news just coming in after Rahul Gandhi, remember, had criticized the Rafale deal and level corruption allegations as well. Now, former Finance Minister Chidambaram is trying to take credit for the Rafale jets. Chidambaram has said that Rafale is a good aircraft and UPA chose it. We welcome the aircraft, but there were other issues that we had raised. Over to my colleague Anand Patel in just about a bit, but listen in to former Finance Minister Chidambaram on this story.
Why should you protest against a Rafale aircraft? And remember, day one said there is a good aircraft. In fact, it was chosen by the government. There's nothing wrong with the aircraft. There were other issues in the way the contract was handled. There was no issue about the Rafale aircraft. The Rafale aircraft was evaluated and approved by the UPA government. Welcome the Rafale aircraft.
Now joins us for the latest. Anand, of course, Chidambaram going on to say that the UPA was the one who had approved the Rafale purchase, had spoken about the Rafale aircraft, and the UPA chose it as well. But perhaps it is the methodology in which the deal and the allegations of discrepancy in terms of the pricing is something that he is objecting to. But having said that, this is an absolute credit war that is going on between the BJP and the Congress party at the moment.
Well, yes, you know, and when Mr. Chidambaram was asked this question during his press conference via video conferencing, he said that the Congress party welcomes the jet fighter which is coming to India on the 29th of July, and it is being seen as a key instrument in India's standoff against China, as the jet fighters are likely to be deployed in the Ladakh sector. Now, he said that the Congress party welcomes the jet fighter, the purchase, and it was the UPA government in 2012, remember, which had given a go-ahead to the Rafale jets, purchase of Rafale jets. But he also said that this comes in the rider that the Congress party still has certain objections regarding the purchase process, like the price negotiation committee was not taken into consideration, their views were not considered. The contract negotiation committee was sidelined. Even the cabinet committee on security was sidelined when the contract was made in a government-to-government deal with the Rafale, over the Rafale with the French government. So the objections do remain. But yes, as you pointed out, it's a credit war now between the Congress and the BJP, with the former finance minister who once did a series of press conferences alleging wrongdoings in the Rafale deal before the Lok Sabha polls, is now welcoming the deal, and he said the Congress party certainly is upbeat that the jet fighter, which was given a go-ahead during the UPA period, is finally coming home.
All right, leave it at that. Anand getting us those details right there. The first batch of Rafale fighter jets has begun their journey from France to India. 5 Rafale fighter jets have taken off from the airbase of southern France and will arrive in Ambala airbase on 29th of July. Indian ambassador to France, Javed Ashraf, was present on the occasion. He interacted with the Indian pilots and wished them safe flight to India. On his journey to India, the 5 Rafales took off along with French Air Force mid-air tanker. They are going to be flying directly to the UAE's Al Dhafra base for a short stop, and then they're going to be crossing the Arabian Sea for the final flight home to Ambala, and that's going to be touchdown India for them. The game-changer Rafale will be formally inducted into the Indian Air Force in late August. The induction of these Rafale jets has come as a major boost for the Air Force amidst the all-time low relations between India and China. The Indian government had signed a 59,000 crore rupees government-to-government deal with France for 36 fighter jets. The remaining aircrafts are going to be arriving in India by 2023.
They are superb flying machines being flown by the best pilots in the world. We'd like to thank Dassault for delivering the aircraft on time, the French Air Force and the French government for all the support they've provided. This is going to add a great deal of strength to our air power and defense preparedness, but it is also a powerful symbol of the strategic partnership between India and France.
Abhishek Bhalla reporting from Delhi now joins us for the very latest. Abhishek, look at the timing of the arrival of these Rafale jets. They're coming in at a time when India and China are in a bitter relationship with each other, especially with what we've seen, what happened in the Galwan Valley, in the Pangong Tso area as well. This, in a way, will be a big shot in the arm coming in for India.
Certainly, Chaiti, this was supposed to be a big boost for India's defense capabilities. And, in the context of what's happening with China in eastern Ladakh, the induction at this point of time becomes even more important. And what is most significant is that, at this point of time, the Rafale will be completely operationally ready. And that's...
Let's re-establish that connection right there to Abhishek Bhalla, who is walking our viewers through the importance of the timing and the way in which it comes as a shot in the arm for India, especially with the current relationship that India is sharing with China. As the countdown for India's Rafale jets have begun, India Today's senior editor Shiv Arur flew the aircraft almost a decade ago in Bengaluru. Here is our full report.
Roaring. Ready. All set for the Indian Air Force. This week, the Rafale stretches its wings for the first time under the auspices of its new masters, pilots of the Indian Air Force. And as a whole generation of Indian aviators get set to operate one of the most advanced combat jets in production today, India Today takes you where nobody else has managed to, directly into the cockpit of the Rafale and into the air. That's right, we weren't kidding, we mean literally. Long before the current crop of Indian pilots who will get to fly the Rafale, India Today's Shiv Arur became the first Indian civilian to do a sortie in the French jet. In 2011, not long before the Rafale was officially selected as India's next fighter following a grueling selection process, Shiv was invited to strap in and experience the fourth generation French fighter for himself. For the flight, Shiv needed to get the full lowdown of the advanced jet. Flying him on this warm summer morning at the Yelahanka Air Base in Bengaluru was Sebastian Dupont de Taichin, an experienced assault test pilot with hundreds of hours on the Rafale jet. For the flight, Shiv gets to don a French Navy flight suit and boots, all crucial elements to the flying experience, and of course, the all-important G-suit, indispensable for combat flying that involves sharp maneuvers. The Rafale is a beast of a jet, powered by twin jet engines that make it one of the most agile jets in the air. Shiv gets a full cockpit briefing on the jet, including how to operate the major systems and controls, and of course, the emergency ejection system in case of any kind of disaster in the air. Engines on, and the growl of the Rafale's engines pretty much drowns everything else out. Inside the cockpit, however, with the helmet on, Shiv only hears a bare rumble and remains in direct communication throughout with his pilot, Sebastian. With full afterburners on, the Rafale roars off the tarmac and rockets into the sky at a steep angle, followed by a sharp turn, demonstrating the aircraft's incredible agility. The Rafale exits Bengaluru airspace to a less densely populated part of the state for a 50-minute flight, where Shiv is given control of the jet for 15 minutes, allowing him to execute all manners and maneuvers, including loops, barrel rolls and steep dives, followed by high G-level out stunts. After a full demonstration of the Rafale sensors and combat systems, it is time to return to base. With Shiv Arur, Bureau Report, India Today.
Well, Shiv, who flew that aircraft, is now joining us live. Shiv, indeed, that must have been a wow moment. What a magical moment it must have been for you. If you could just tell us the kind of supremacy in the edge that the Rafale fighter jets have over the others, what did you experience?
Well, Jyoti, the Rafale is easily one of the most modern fighter aircraft in the world today. So the Indian Air Force is paying top dollar for these aircraft. Let's never forget that. But these are extremely capable aircraft, miles ahead of anything that the Indian Air Force currently operates, not just in terms of weaponry, but also the electronic systems and sensors that are on board this aircraft, which make it a truly multi-role fighter. And by that, I mean an aircraft that's capable of air-to-ground missions, that is strike missions, as well as air dominance, which is, the capability of keeping enemies away from your airspace by the sheer range of the weaponry that this aircraft has on board. So my flight in this aircraft was 9 years ago. It was an incredible experience. I was very privileged enough to have been invited by the French embassy to fly that plane. I, of course, am not a combat pilot myself, but the experience in it, where the pilot flying me actually showed me some of the extreme G-forces and the things that this aircraft could do, was an amazing insight, or it is a partial insight, Chetty, into what Indian pilots are going to be doing with this jet. And remember, once these fighters land on Wednesday, there's going to be very little time to rest, even for those pilots, because they're the only ones who know how to fly this aircraft. They're going to have to train other Indian Air Force pilots here in India. And let's never forget, their biggest priority now is to operationalize these jets as quickly as possible so they can be ready for the proverbial fight, should that need arise. We all know what's happening in Ladakh right now. And even though it's a little bit of a stretch to say these aircraft will simply fly into Ladakh, we've actually put that out quite, in a very nuanced way here on India Today and on Battle Cry. But the fact is, it is definitely a priority, because these are, after all, war-waging assets. And therefore, if the country needs them in conflict, that's where they will be. So it's a great time to welcome these jets. In just a few hours from now, they will be landing in the UAE. And on Tuesday, they'll begin their flight back to India, landing in Ambala sometime mid-morning on Wednesday is what I'm hearing.
Oh, thanks, Shiv, for getting us up to speed with the power of Rafale, and more power to you as well. What a fantastic flight that must have been, at the cost of repeating myself. India, of course, is two untrustworthy neighbors on its east and west, China and Pakistan. The biggest question in everybody's mind right now will be, how will the dynamics of air power change when we get the Rafales? So hold on and watch this extensive report on how the Rafale will be a huge advantage for the Indian Air Force.
With India's first Rafales inbound, India's public has one question above all. Will the Rafales play a role in Ladakh? Like all things military, it's a complex answer. So stay with us as we take you through it step by step. Question Question 1. Will the Rafales be deployed in Ladakh? First things first, the Rafales will be based at Haryana's Ambala, which as you can see is 430 kilometers from Ladakh, which may seem like a lot, but it's a very short distance in supersonic fast fighter jet terms and can be covered very quickly. More importantly, the Rafale's range and its combat radius is a staggering 1700 kilometers, which means the aircraft and its weapons are a direct threat to all zones covered by that circle, which very much includes eastern Ladakh, Chinese-controlled Aksai Chin, Tibet, Pakistan and POK. Question number 2. Can Rafales operate from Ladakh? The answer to that question is a big yes. In fact, one of the India-specific enhancements on the Rafale is a modification of the fighter's twin-jet engines, allowing them to operate at extreme cold temperatures of the high-altitude air bases like Leh. Question number 3. Don't Indian Air Force pilots need time to train? The Indian Air Force has clearly stated that its pilots are fully operational on the Rafale and its advanced weapon systems. And while the jets can always be deployed where and when necessary, specific mission familiarization has actually already begun. Since June, Indian pilot trainees in France have specifically been flying simulated combat profiles mirroring missions over Ladakh, with true depictions of terrain and deployments. The Rafale combat simulators and training equipment allow pilots to load scenarios of choice and fly missions in a highly realistic artificial intelligence setting. While this can only be the next best thing to actual flights, it's an indication of a move to get combat ready quickly. Question 4. How will China react to the Indian Rafales? Well, after the Rafales arrive, while pilots will spend time stretching their wings and discovering their combat qualities, the jets will already have a psychological effect across the border. Every time the adversary spots an aircraft on the Indian side, they will assume it's the Rafale with all its advanced long-range weaponry, and that itself can have an effect on any potential battle. The belief that India will always put its best foot forward in a combat scenario could have a deterrent effect. Question 5. Is the Rafale better than Chinese jets? While the Chinese Air Force has capable aircraft and in large numbers, the Rafale currently outclasses them in all parameters, including combat radius, range, weaponry, and very importantly, in terms of electronic warfare. China's most advanced jet, the 5th generation J-20 stealth fighter, should theoretically be a superior aircraft. But without combat experience like the Rafale, and China likely unwilling to expose its jet to Indian sensors, the advantage stands eroded for now. But the Chinese jet is still a reminder that India still doesn't have a true stealth fighter aircraft yet. And finally, can 5 Rafales make a difference? Well, the 5 Rafales arriving are just the first batch, with more aircraft to arrive in installments for a total of 36 jets by 2023. And while there can be no replacement for sheer numbers, it's also important to note that the Rafale is an enormously capable weapons platform, and even a handful of these jets, flying with other Indian Air Force jets in combat packages, could pack a serious deterrent and offensive punch. Bureau Report, India Today.
So how does Rafale compare to Pakistan's F-16 fighter aircraft and China's J-20? Senior editor Shivaru decodes.
It's always difficult to really compare two fighter aircraft